And I had a couple of scenarios recently where, because I live here now and I'm a tax resident here, there's some things I can't do in my UK pension. So for example, you can have commercial property in a UK pension, but you can't have residential property. And our business rates, the property taxes on our little office in Richmond have gone up 66% this year. One of the many anti-business measures in the UK at the moment. So we decided we wanted to convert to residential, but we couldn't do it with our pension. So I went to this tax expert that we use now in our investment club, and he's setting me up something called the QNUPS, a qualifying non-UK pension scheme, which can hold residential property. But we also have a former home in Richmond that we wanted to put in the pension, which is obviously residential. But I worked out the tax you'd have to pay to move that across would have been tremendous. But he said, hold on, let me go to one of my certified tax planners. And they came back to me and said, actually there are 3 ways you can calculate capital gains tax under UK tax law. And the one that they proposed was 70% less than the standard model that I had assumed, which made the whole thing viable. So, my accountant didn't know that, I didn't know that. And so I think the lesson from this is, you don't know what you don't know, but even more important, you don't know what your accountant doesn't know. And what I find with a lot of the entrepreneurs in our group of investors is when they started out, they were doing maybe 50k, 100k a year. They went to this nice high street accountant, and he did all their regular statutory accounts for them. Then 20 years later, now they're doing 5 million a year. They're still using this guy because he's become a friend. They play golf with him, they have beers with him. But all his other clients are doing 50 or 100k a year. He has no idea the opportunities and challenges of a 5 million a year business. So as you upgrade your business, your wealth, your assets, you've got to upgrade your advisory team. Don't assume that just because this guy's been with you for 5 or 10 years that he's still the right accountant or the right lawyer, dare I say. You've got to upgrade and pay the fees. People sometimes don't want to pay the fees of these highly qualified advisors, but I've always found I've had at least a 10x return on any kind of fees that I've paid these guys. So just a couple of things from my recent experience I wanted to share with you, because I think they're hopefully useful. And now, what we are going to do is have our first of 2 presentations this evening. What we have is 100 years of business experience between our 2 speakers this evening. They obviously started when they were very young. So to talk about how to buy a business, but in the context of his own substantial experience across a range of businesses, please welcome Gary Katzler.
Thank you very much, Graham. I need notes because when you get as old as I am, you forget most things. So I have a couple of notes which I will need. But basically the intention is just to tell you a little bit about myself, where I come from, what I did, over my background, and then to talk about the key lessons that I've learned through the various business interests that I've been involved in over the years. I was born in Kenya. Both my parents were born there. Like half the people in this audience, there seems to be a plethora of Africans. I would like to stress I'm from East Africa, not South Africa. So no offense to the Saffers in my community. I went to school in Kenya until I was 13, then I was sent to school in England where I boarded. If I'm speaking too fast, please just tell me to slow down. You can ask me any questions you like. So I was sent to England where I went to school. I then went to university in England where I studied a business studies degree, specialising in the hospitality, leisure, tourism sector. And then I worked in hotels initially, large London hotels to begin with. And then I set up a small hotel business with my brother. We bought small country house hotels. For those who aren't used to it, it's like a big old manor house with maybe 8, 10, 15 bedrooms. And we bought something that was very run down. We did it up, we got the trade going up. We then sold it on. You could roll over the capital gain into the next one. We did this half a dozen, 8 times over the years, progressively getting a bigger one, or we had 2 at one stage and whatever else. And then after probably 8 years of that, I decided to branch out. I didn't have a falling out with my brother, thank goodness. We still speak, even though we live in different countries. And so decided to branch out, and I started a management consultancy practice, specialising in the hospitality and leisure sectors, with a friend of mine from university, who best man at my wedding, vice versa. We were very, very old friends. So we literally decided one day we were going to do this. So from a spare bedroom in the house, we set up a little business, and we started advising hotels in terms of how they could improve their operations. We weren't exactly business gurus ourselves at that stage, but we were. We could look at things objectively, I think was one of the main things. And a lot of the people that we came to advise had bought hotels thinking that it was a very easy business to be in, thinking that it was quite glamorous, didn't have to work so hard. They were very wrong. So we got involved in that for a number of years. But one of the first things we found over the early years was that we found in a hotel there was a manager who couldn't manage or a chef who couldn't cook. So we decided we're going to start a recruitment business to recruit the people who could actually do a better job. Oh. So that's what we did, and eventually the tail wagged the dog, as it were. We landed up with, I can't remember, a dozen offices throughout the UK, 180 people, servicing the hospitality sector throughout. And originally we were in management recruitment, but by the end we were executive search, director level recruitment, right down to waiters and barmen, temporary staff, supplying even the likes of Daily Ford's company. But I can assure you, he screwed a rate that was pretty... The margin was very low on that business. Shame he's not here to enjoy it.
He's too embarrassed to show up.
Yeah, I think that's probably right. So we built that up over the years. We then made various acquisitions. We brought in some venture capital money. And it was at that sort of stage when things changed. For those of you who had interface with venture capitalists, they are greedy so-and-sos, and it's all about money. There's nothing else they're interested in. They've invested in your business, and they're just there to maximize what they can get out of it. And that was a problem. We had non-executive directors, which was fine, that wasn't an issue, but the short-termism really was a problem for me. We had by that stage, we had a chairman who had been appointed by the venture capitalists. He had been responsible for floating on the stock market an IT recruitment company very successfully. And their belief was that he could do the same thing with our company. So he came in with that remit, and basically he got it wrong, because the hospitality sector is very different to the IT sector. The recruitment for both sectors is very, very different, and which is something that I was concerned about from the off. The business was too small to float. We floated on what was called AIM in those days, which was the junior stock market. We were only turning over 15 million. We had an EBITDA of profit of 800,000. It wasn't a big business at all. It wasn't really geared towards, in my view, it was too early. And at the same time as that, the chairman decided to drive a wedge between myself and my originating partner and friend, and I was ousted from the company, having worked 20 years with my best friend. He's godfather, still godfather to my son, and I am to his son. I'll be seeing him next week, actually, as it happens, and I'm fine with it now, but it was a very stressful time. I think arguably more stressful for Fee than it was for me. This was our business, we built it up. We were doing pretty well, we thought, and suddenly I'm out on the street, and I needed something else to do. So I then, for my sins, I thought, well, I'm going to invest in various businesses, take a bit of a punt, take a risk, that is. Sorry, just one little thing about you can ask questions later about what happened with me with this recruitment company, but being pushed up, the company did float on AIM. It floated with a share price of 71 pence. 2 years later, my erstwhile friend and partner was thrown out of the company, at which time the share price was 17 pence. The company was then delisted from AIM when the share price was half a penny. And it is still going, and arguably doing quite well at the moment, but it's gone private. I've still got all my shares, I haven't got any, but they're worth tuppence halfpenny in terms of real value. So I don't know what lesson I could learn from that. Perhaps we had offers, we had very good offers for the company before we decided, or it was decided to float the company. And perhaps greed got in the way. Perhaps we just felt that we could do a lot better than we were, that we could grow the business a lot further. Whatever the reasons, it was in hindsight, looking back at it now, it wasn't a great decision, but you get on with life. So then I decided to invest in various businesses. Very quickly I invested in, I'm talking very quickly as opposed to it didn't happen very quickly, a cordon bleu cookery school in the UK. I became a director and investor in a cordon bleu cookery school, which we eventually sold to Gordon Ramsay, who made a mess of it and it went bust. I invested in a private investigation business and private investigation and security business, which lasted a couple of years. One of the key areas there, which was interesting, was that one of the reasons I got involved in it was that there was a contract with the film company. We were going to do all the security for a film production company, and it transpired that that was all bogus, and the film company went bust. So I pulled the plug on that particular company. So we've had some various interesting ones, various other recruitment companies, one in the cultural sector, recruiting people for huge museums, particularly in the Middle East, which was successful until such times as we merged with a management consultancy practice, and the management consultant arm sitting on the board didn't like the fact that I, as the only non-executive director, was asking difficult questions. So they decided that I needed to be dispatched. So I was dispatched from that particular business. I also got involved in sports recruitment. Around that time there was sports structures. There was another company which went by the great name of Jobs with Balls, which, as the name would suggest, it was actually a sports business. But it was quite entertaining. And then where I am today is in 2003, I bought a very bizarre little niche business, which was an upmarket dating business. I was being registered with various companies looking for businesses to invest in or to buy, and this one crossed my desk, and I thought, well, it's not that far different from recruitment. You're matching people together. I mean, it might be matching in love as opposed to matching for jobs, but the theory is quite similar. So I bought this business. It was set up, it had been started by a lady. It was geared very much towards what we in the UK refer to as the Twin Set and Pearls Brigade. So it was the middle-aged and older people who were rather sort of staid in their attitude, should we say. I decided that we wanted to actually refocus it and gear it towards professional, successful people, people who were time short, dynamic individuals who just didn't have the time or the place or the time to wade through, as is nowadays the case with the Tinders of this world. And it was very much at the top end of the market. I'm talking 2003. And when we bought it, the fee to join was $5,000 a year. We're now 15,000 we start at. So it's a very, we're not competing with Tinder. It's a very different type of business. So I bought that. It's basically geared towards ultra high net worth individuals. It's people who've got, the people who live in Kinta. It's those sorts of people. In some ways very similar to the recruitment that I was involved in at the executive search end, the very top end. And over the years we've grown the business. The fees, as I say, we pushed those up significantly. To put it into perspective, our top fee is probably about $50,000 that we charge. In America, some of the top firms will charge $250,000 at the very top end there. It is extraordinary.
Is that for a husband or a wife?
Either. You can both pay. Both sides pay. Well, in some businesses they don't, not both sides pay, but in our business both sides pay. When the business we bought it was purely and simply the UK. We've developed it significantly internationally. We've done a lot of work now internationally through the main business, but also we've now franchised the business. So we have franchises in, since we started, we've had them in Holland, Belgium, Scandinavia, France, Italy, Switzerland. We've had joint ventures with companies in America and Australia. So it's become a global business, particularly the type of people that we are servicing are people who will travel. So they're not necessarily fixated with staying at home. So the franchise business has been successful in some ways, but we've also had some hiccups, which I'll come on to in a second. Just to put it into perspective, it's a big market, the dating business. It used to be, I think people were a bit like recruitment, shy to say that they were a member of a recruitment company or that they joined a recruitment company in the same way people would be shy to say that they joined a dating agency. The dating agency now, it's quite difficult getting consistent figures out, but the global online market, with the online being the likes of Tinder where you're swiping, is now 9 billion in 2023, and they foresee it going up to 30 billion in 2032. The matchmaking business, which is the business that I'm in, was worth 4 billion globally in 2020, this year, 2024. So it's a big, big business. A lot of arms to it, and a lot of fun, and a lot of not so much fun. So, very quickly now, I'm going to whistle through these slides here. Buying and selling companies, how have I gone about it? I've approached business brokers, there are various ones. All you do is go on the internet and say business for sale in the Algarve, and you'll see, well, businessforsale.com, I'm sure it's got businesses for sale down here. Online directories, you can approach your accountants, lawyers. I'm sure have people who they are aware of who want to buy or sell businesses, private equity, business angels. So that's where you're going to find companies. What's important for me, what I learned was, I'm not going to go through this in detail because it's going to take too long, but just due diligence is critical. It is so, so important that you really check out what it is you're buying. You've got to check out, obviously, the financial performance, you've got to do the market research, but there are so many things that you really need to make sure. I've got it right on occasions and I've got it very wrong on occasions. So I think that it's quite difficult to get it right every time because there will be hidden bits and pieces there. But you just learn as you go along, and provided you do learn. Intellectual property is another area nowadays. We've had examples there in our dating business where somebody was trying to buy up the domains in the various countries when they heard that we were franchising out. So we're Barclay International is the name of the company. So we have Barclay International .be or whatever it might be, .it, and they were trying to buy them up all over the place. So it's just dog eat dog out there, which is why I'm very pleased I'm at this end of my dinosaur life. Regulatory changes, that's something else. Why the business is being sold is important. The management team, I'm always a great believer that certainly when I'm invested in businesses, as opposed to buying them outright, but investing in businesses, the management team for me has been key. If the management team is not strong, then even if the product and service is fantastic, then it puts me off. How do you value the business? Well, I'm not sure we really want to go into that in particular detail today, but various ways of doing it as a multiple of EBITDA, or multiple of profit. Sometimes where that's not appropriate, you can have a multiple of sales. The difference between, in my background, from hotels to recruitment or dating is a hotel has a value in the property, so it actually has, in essence, two values. One is the value of the property and one is the value of the business, whereas with the recruitment and dating businesses, it's totally an intangible asset.
Just a quick question here. You've been involved in quite a wide variety of businesses across your career. Would you say, would it have been easier to stay in the same sector in terms of things like due diligence? If you're constantly buying recruitment businesses or hotel businesses, do you think just focusing on that one sector would make it more likely to succeed?
Good question. Yes, probably. But I have a very low boredom threshold.
Trying new objects.
Except for your wife.
Yes, but I think so. But I think that there was a limit to what my brother and I could achieve in the hotel business, which is why we branched out, on the basis that to buy a hotel is very expensive, or you're borrowing an awful lot of money. And when I'm going back to the years that we were buying hotels, interest rates were, in 1976, 16, 17%, even down to, the young ones here have no idea. Even for the majority of that time, we were up, I'd say the average was probably 12 until 2008 when it dropped down to, when interest rates dropped significantly. But when you're paying an enormous amount of money on interest, there is a limit to. Hi, this is German time. No offence to our lawyer here, but I have been burnt by professional fees, and I know exactly what you're saying. I'm a great believer in, if you can find the right one, they're worth it, absolutely. But maybe my fault, I have fixed some charlatans over the years, one way or another. And, but in terms of whether it's accountants or lawyers, you're going to be into fees, and it's just a fact of life. But I'm with you. Get a good one, because they're actually better than cheap. As my father used to say, cheap is expensive in this sort of thing. People, I think, is a critical aspect to any business, obviously. You've done your due diligence. There's detailed legal agreements, shareholder agreements, employment contracts. I think one of the biggest lessons I have learned is do not assume that there will be no disagreement or conflict, because I started a business with my best friend, fine for 20 years, but then something happens. My dating business now, I've had a problem with a lady who's run the business for 20 years, 19 years. This last year, it's all resolved that now, but again, it is very challenging. So I think one needs to bear in mind that you've got to look on the downside. You've got to look for the downside. There will be a downside. Don't expect it to be all roses, because it won't be. Moving on quickly, how do you structure the deal? Now this is, if you're buying a hotel, it's straightforward, you're buying it and that's done and dusted. If you're buying a recruitment company or a dating business, you are potentially buying fresh air. So you've got to be very careful. So whether you're the buyer or the seller, it's going to vary. If I'm buying a business, I want to put as little money as I possibly can up front and have some on future performance. If it's the other way around, I want to maximise the upfront payment. So,
Gary, can I just say, my super negotiator husband has quite a way of negotiating ways to buy a business. Just a little bit about the moral about this business.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, we bought a French property business just after the 2008 crash, and they were asking, I think, $250,000 for it, and in the end we got it for 30k up front and 30k 18 months later. So you know it can be done, but yeah.
do you work with people who want to sell their business? So get the other way around. No, it can be done, but my advice is if you are buying a business, you want to do it one way, if you're looking to sell the business, you want to do it the other way. If you are selling the business, the future payments, you've got to have some element of control over that. Because if it's purely done on profit, the profit can be manipulated by the person who is the new owner, and they can put through all charges. So unless you've got some mechanism for controlling that, it can be quite difficult. I'm quite anal about finance and about looking at detail. So I'm a great one for business plans, for financial forecast budgets, regular reporting, detailed reviews. All that sort of thing for me is really, really important. But I would say you can go too far, and there are people that I've been in business with who get so wrapped up in it that it becomes paralysis by analysis. So they spend their whole life actually analysing things and not actually doing anything. So I think you've got to be careful on that. Cash is king. When I had the recruitment company and we were growing fast, probably arguably too fast in some ways, but we were building up because of we had this temporary recruitment business, and we were being owed an awful lot of money at the time, and the companies like David Ford's, big companies, were very, very poor in paying, and if you got anything within 90 days, it was a miracle, and it was a real nightmare. So I think that's something, I'm not sure, if you want the big contracts, you can put anything with the big companies, but it is an inherent problem there. We survived recessions. Bear in mind, I go back such a long way that we had recessions in the early 80s, the early 90s, we had the 2008 crash, we've had COVID. So I've had we've had some interesting times to contend with. But to give you an example of one thing, when I talked about people being important, one thing we did in the recruitment company when we had the crash in early 1990s was we decided we didn't, obviously nobody had any idea how long it was going to last for, but we decided what we were going to do was, rather than making people redundant, we would propose to the workforce that everybody took a 20% pay cut. from top to bottom. In fact, directors took a 50% pay cut. Rather than, we would have had to make significant redundancies. And everybody took it on board. I can't say they were happy with it, but they understood the reasons for it. And then we were able to come through that, and when the market improved, we could get back to decent speed very, very quickly. So that was, but also bear in mind what I said before about interest rates. You know, the interest rates were punitive then. So my view is, you know, cash is king. You can be, as we were in the recruitment company, profitable, very decently profitable, but we were running out of cash. So that's very important. Operations, I'm a great believer in, as I say, in analysing lots of things. KPIs, key performance indicators, that's important to me. Whatever the key drivers are of your business, whether you've got a restaurant and it's your number of covers and your gross profits, whatever it is, you need to monitor those and see what you can do to improve your performance. Reviews with staff, motivation, reward, targets. I'm a great believer in targets, particularly salespeople. This new generation don't seem to be quite so keen on targets for some reason. I'm a great believer in targets. We had an American business guru who came to talk to us at the recruitment company, and he had a great line, which is, if you have nothing to aim at, you'll hit it. In other words, you'll hit nothing. And it's so true. So I think that, you know, we all need something to aim for. Show genuine interest in your people. I think it is so expensive to recruit and train somebody up now that if you can actually retain the good people, it is so much better to do that. We used to do all sorts of different things at the recruitment company. We had big family days, and we had 180 people. We get the families would organise a huge event somewhere, and there'd be games for all these little kids and whatever else. We had big conferences. We had some interesting speakers. We had Bear Grylls. We had various people like that who were very good motivational speakers. Just to try and add value and to make them feel as though we're actually giving them something back. So I do believe that that's important. Succession planning, that's just making sure that I'm certainly a great believer in that. Marketing-wise, in terms of what we've done on our businesses over the years, obviously everybody, or most people these days, have websites of one sort or another. The whole thing to do with social media and online marketing, whatever. It is, for me, the most important thing is the bottom line there, which is the quote from somebody. I know that half my advertising spend is wasted, and the trouble is I don't know which half. And I think that is so often the case with most people. Even, you know, I've had this business now for 20 years. We try to monitor everything to do with where every inquiry comes in. We ask them, how did they hear about Barclay International? We ask them if they say Google, what did you type into Google? What words did you type in? The keywords are important. Trying to get at the answers is not quite so simple from the people, but you must really ask these questions, in my view. What are the key issues with this dating business? Over-reliance on Google. Google now, for me, is a very dangerous, or potentially a very dangerous business that can affect businesses adversely very, very easily. We've had various run-ins with Google, not that we can ever speak to anybody, but we've had run-ins with Google whereby people have, they haven't hacked our site, but they have actually put us down on links to dubious sites. We have, as a result of that, you drop on the Google rankings. on the listings, you go south very, very quickly. And as a result of that, the number of inquiries you get goes south very, very quickly. Try to get an answer from Google, or try to speak to somebody at Google. We use an SEO company who are supposedly Google experts, or whatever they call them. They can't even get through. So we all rely on somebody typing on their machine, upmarket dating agency, restauranting, Katera, whatever it might be. People are going to type in that. But Google has such a strong grip on the market. I mean, for a small business, we spend probably 100,000 a year with Google. We spend money with Bing as well. But it is, Google is the monopoly, basically. Lack of recurring income stream. The business that I have now, this dating business, we don't have a recurring income stream very often, which in some ways is a jolly good thing because it means we've actually sorted our clients out and they're happier, they've gone off to live in, if not marital bliss, in partnership bliss somewhere. But on the other hand, I do like the idea of having a recurring income stream, and that's something that we don't have. Back to Google again, in some ways, negative online reviews, that's a real nightmare. And that's something that we have really suffered from. We actually got an investigator onto one. We were getting a whole lot of negative reviews on Google, and it transpired it was one of our competitors. We actually then managed to get it from their IP address where it was coming from. And I'm pleased to be able to report that they eventually went bust and no longer exist. We did suffer from that. We've also suffered from ex-employees writing reviews. You're in the restaurant business.
It's awful.
Yeah.
It's awful.
My brother had a hotel.
You are on top of the list for 2 years or 3 years, on the third, on the first I was given.
Yeah.
And suddenly some folk that you never see online, and he argue about the music is too high on the swimming pool. It's like that.
Yeah.
And you drop like
And it stays there.
And then it's hard to get back up.
And it's really tough to get it on your regular.
My brother eventually got out the hotel business for one key reason, which was TripAdvisor was.
And yeah, it's awful, and I think it's really unjust. It's not the opposite of justice. I'm sorry, because they don't filter nothing.
No, there's no control.
It's unfair.
My brother, he had various people who would say, if you do not give me a free weekend in the hotel, I will write an awful review. If you do not do it, it's like blackmail.
Yeah.
I mean, it is.
More or less.
Yeah.
It's scary.
It's bred a whole new kind of customer, I think, as well.
It has.
Looking for things to complain about.
I think there are those who actually have made a career out of it and are trying to screw deals or refunds.
And the competition as well.
Yeah.
So I actually have a small business, so a tiny small business, and I try to not to hold too much on that kind of things. It helps, but try to not.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I don't know what the answer is. It's a nightmare for businesses today, particularly businesses, because people are going to go on. And there have been a lot of articles written about. There was one interesting one about a restaurant in Paris that some journalists in France decided that there was something wasn't right about the reviews. So they set up a bogus site of a restaurant, and it became number 97 of all the restaurants in Paris, this particular restaurant. but it didn't exist.
Oh, I have another one. Yes, yes.
And so they just created it just to show that the whole thing is just contrived.
There was one that they even put pictures and never happened. This restaurant, it's all fake, and it's got the number one.
Yeah.
And
The answer
all
is-
people want to reserve.
You get
Sorry.
to your website,
Sorry.
and everyone in this room writes a nice review about you. Before you go there.
Yeah. I've had, so coming back then, negative online reviews, people issues and franchisee issues. I've had some interesting times with those over the many years I've been in business. A lot of that has been down to, I think, a combination of greed and possibly power that people want. The run-in I've had with the lady who runs my dating business, which is resolved, as I say now, has been all to do with money, and she has been grossly overpaid. And I'm not just saying that from my point of view. I know because I've taken other. I know what the comparables are. And there comes a time when you just think, where will it end? And I'm just saying, that's why I'm saying I'm pleased I'm at this end of my career, because I don't think people, and it's the final point there really is, integrity. I mean, this integrity issue today is one that really, whether it's people not trying to writing a poor review unjustifiably for a restaurant, whatever it might be, it's just, people do not have, around this room, fortunately everybody has a certain standards of how to behave. I just wish everybody
there's a complete lack of respect in this world.
It is.
In comparison to when we were young guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, no offence to our lawyer present.
I'm leaving.
But I just give you one of the franchisee issues that I'll just tell you a little quick story about that. We had a franchisee in Italy who had been grossly underperforming for a long time, and we were already having discussions whether to terminate her contract. And then suddenly she landed us with a writ for a claim for 470,000 euros for some completely spurious nonsense. Well, it took me the best part of a year and 60,000 euros worth of legal fees to fight her, and in the end, she paid us 5,000 or something. But the time that I spent and the waste of time, can I just advise you, don't deal with the law in Italy. It is so old. It's Roman. It's beyond Roman. It's Byzantine. I mean, it is extraordinary. It is so old-fashioned. Be careful. But something like that, I don't know that there's any way that we could have foreseen anything like that. It's just that's where it is.
Yeah.
Integrity. Yeah. I've got here something. I read somewhere that parents who live lives of integrity bring great blessing to their children. I was truly blessed to have that from my parents as feeding with hers. Both our fathers were the type of people who would never park on a yellow line. They would just never cross the line. Billy Graham said, "Integrity is the glue that holds our way of life together. We must constantly strive to keep our integrity intact. When wealth is lost, nothing is lost. When health is lost, something is lost. When character is lost, all is lost." And I think this, to me, is, whether it's the devil, whether it's, whatever it is, but there is a force afoot that is not helping us and for you youngsters here who have got a long way to go in your careers. So, in summary, what I would say is surround yourself with strong people with the right set of values. As someone once said, if you're the smartest person in the room, then you're in the wrong room. You really don't want to be the smartest person. Listen. I have been in so many meetings with erstwhile co-directors who have hijacked the meeting. God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth, use them in that proportion. Or as Abraham Lincoln once said, it's better to stay silent and be thought a fool than to speak and remove all doubt. And finally, you know, for us here, we have faith, so we can trust in God's plan. It might not happen the way we want it to straight away, but we trust in God's plan because I think it was Nicky Gumbel who said, worrying is like a rocking chair. It gives you something to do, but it gets you nowhere. So there we are. So that's the story of my life.
Questions are there before we break, Gary. The first one is, I think there's a lot of similarity there to our experience. You tend to buy a business and then while working at growing it rather than start something from scratch.
Yes, some of the recruitment companies we started from scratch, but
But I always found it much easier to do that than to start something from zero and try, whereas at least if you get something with a customer base and a list and a strategy, you can improve it, you can do better marketing and all the rest.
I think certain businesses like Jonathan in your digital marketing, and I've got a son who's in that sphere, he started from scratch. I think there's certain areas where we can do that, but yeah, certainly my experience is, like I bought the dating business, I would never started a dating business from scratch. I mean, anybody who tries to do that. But that's another thing, coming back to integrity. The number of staff members you've had from both recruitment and the dating business who have left and then gone off and started their own business. We have, which is one thing to do with how do we learn from these things with the restricted covenants in terms of what they can do and can't do. But those are really open to abuse, and the lawyers amongst us can fight that because is it a restraint of trade? Is it? And it varies. I mean, with my experience across Europe, Belgium is very different to Italy, which is different to. There's no EU similarity.
No, we've allowed this stolen twice for ex-employees.
We went legal on it, we went legal.
I know we did. The final question, there are 500,000 baby boomer owned businesses for sale in the UK. I notice your kids have not kind of decided to commit to the family firm, have they?
No, very, very sadly not, because otherwise I would be playing more golf. No, they have not. They've been very, very sensible.
They've seen how hard you
No, it's been, we've had a very good lifestyle out of it. We really have. We've been very lucky. We lived 12 years in France before we came here. We've been here 3.5 years. I haven't been fully occupied in the business or anything like. Having said that, I have taken a back seat and let somebody to drive it. And that's maybe, somebody younger with more energy or a different ambition would have handled that differently. But no, my children will not be taking over this thing.
I think it's great.
But if you have children who would like to buy it, they're very welcome.
I think it's great when you share everything, warts and all, because when you're an entrepreneur, the highs are high and the lows are very low, and you can be very lonely, which is why I think this group is great to be together, to share all the kind of pain that we might be going through, or all the excitement we might be going through, one way or the other. We've also found that staff, even the good ones, go lame in the end.
Yeah.
And you think they start off really great, but actually there's a problem. And what's the 3-night one?
Yeah, our American business coach said, if I wake up 3 days running thinking about you and I'm not sleeping with you, you're fired. Right, let's have a 10-minute break. Thanks again, Gary. Thank you. Now for something completely different. We're going to have somebody who's run the same business for 50 years. And we're going to start, I think, a little bit of an introduction, some videos so you can get a sense of a very visual business. and then we'll put him in the hot seat afterwards. So he's not escaping the hot seat, he's just delaying it for a while. Please welcome our second speaker, Derek Banks.
I'd like you to come up and do all PowerPoint presentations. Right, so go back from the beginning. What you did, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Okay. Well, the last thing you said, integrity, from my parents, definitely, that has been one thing I think has helped me the whole way through. I've got a bit of a croaky throat, so if you can't hear me, just say you can't. My dad had he was an engineer. He went, he did his apprenticeship with Citroens in the 20s and was a late dad like me. I think he was 46 when I turned up, which was the year that his a grocery business that went out of business, went bust, bankrupt, and he went back to his roots, started an engineering business, and that went up to be about 2 factories. They make press steel stuff, and they made press steel stuff, and he got up to about 700 people working for him, so that's a big company. From the age of 46 when he started it, with a loan from my mother, who lent him £500 in 1952, I think, which was, I don't know, a sum of money. And he went with his brother, and eventually his brother, he split, but kept friends, and he sold the company when I was about 21. Now, the bit before that, when I was about 13, the company, I should sort of start, the company's a boat company, so it's my mother's fault. People ask me, how did you get into it? It's my mother's fault. When I was 13, she said, you need to get a job. And I thought, hang on a minute, schools, that stuff, you know. And she said, no, holiday job. And I said, okay. And the following day, she said, you've got to start in the boatyard on the other side of the river. We're very fortunate. I've still got the family house in Windsor. The other side of the river, in those days, there was a boatyard. And so I was the boatyard lad, and I could row to work in the morning, come back for lunch, 100 metres away, and row back in the afternoon. I loved it. I got completely brainwashed with boats and water from the age of 13, and went to a school on the river. I went to 2 schools on the River Thames, and did rowing and boating and sailing and all that stuff. And then I, after leaving school, around September time, I was about 18. I failed on my O-levels. Never very academic. Dad had his business, that was still going on. And my mother said, well, what are you going to do? You're 18. And I said, she said, what about college? And I said, you can't get into college when you fail all your O-levels. And she said, well, you've got one. I've got an AO level. For some reason I started that in human biology. And there was one, we were a co-ed school, we had one girl at school only. It started the year I started my AO level, which is sort of a failed A level, an AO level. And this girl, Rosemary, and I did the human biology course, just the 2 of us. And but with this exam, I could get into a business studies course called an Ordinary National Diploma, which was the lowest of the low courses you could get into. And so I didn't go to university, but I had further education for about, it was a 2-year course, and for the first year, I learned about things with law and accountancy and statistics and typewriting and various other things. And it was an eye-opener to me. There were 3 of us who'd been to public school, English public school, which means that people had, parents had paid for it. And I'm not sure it was a good investment, but anyway, were very pleased that I had something to do, otherwise I'd have been sitting at home or just working the boatyard on the other side of the river, which I thought was also fun, and I used to still do it weekends. And so I did a couple of years at Twickenham Technical College near London, West London, and then the exam came for that, and I failed that. 2 of us failed on the course of 40 of us, and 2 failed. I'm still very good friends with the other guy. We're meeting up, we're having a 50-something odd anniversary coming up soon. So after the college thing, well, at night school, during college, I did a navigation course because those was where I was going. I wasn't quite sure how, but with a navigation course, so I did what in English is called a yacht master's course. So it allowed me to then charge people to go sailing, which I thought was a very good wheeze, because you got given all sorts of nice boats and told to take them somewhere else in the world. So I did that for a couple of years as what they call a delivery skipper, which meant you were basically given a boat, you had no idea of the condition of it, apart from looking at things, and then you took a friend along, and you took it from A to B in Europe or Caribbean or wherever people wanted it. So I did that for 2 or 3 years, and then I got a proper job on a flotilla cruise. It was the first sailing flotilla cruise company in Greece. And entrepreneur guy started it, borrowed the money to buy 7 32-foot sailing boats, and we had a large 70-foot converted motor torpedo boat as our mothership. We spent 3 or 4 months getting everything together, and the boats arrived. And then we took people from 2-week journeys up and down. We had the mothership, which had a restaurant on it, and which no flotilla cruise company does that today. They have lead boats and they take them to restaurants, but in the Greek islands in those days, in 1976 that was, there were very few little restaurants, tavernas in the islands, so they used to quite often come on board the mothership and would serve them food and everything. We had a cook on board, we had a housekeeper, a girl I was with at the time, lovely American girl who I was completely in love with. She came with me, and then in October she got fired. I don't know why. And I was told that the company was going to have a second flotilla, and I was told I could be in charge of it the second year. The first year I was the number 2, because I sort of had boatyard experience and I could sail. And so I went home with her back to England, because I thought that was much better idea than being given a beautiful whole flotilla of my own to look after, which is what I really wanted to do. And I remember getting home, the first time I got home, she opened a Yachting Monthly, which is an English yachting magazine, and looked in the back, there was a classified ad, and 4-line ad, and it said, "For sale, boat business in France." And she said, "Look, Derek, this is something for you." And she knew that my dad had sold the business, and she also knew that in 1974 or 5, I was 21, he had given my sister and I, at the time it was £20,000. He'd sold his business for £1 million or something like that. You talked a lot about EBITDA and money and finance and accounting. It's all been incredibly interesting for me, all of that, because I didn't really pay attention at college. Which I should have done. Anyway, she saw this little ad, and then the next day, I've been going out with her for about 3 years, and she was absolutely then the love of my life, and she said, "Derek, this is for you. Spend the money on that. Go and do that." And then the next day she left. And she walked off with one of the charterers who had come on board the mothership, who was a journalist during the year, and I was unaware of this. I just thought something might be going on. I was very busy working, so I didn't see everything that was going on. And so she went off with him, and I thought, well, that's a bit strong. So I decided then to go to France, and this was in October '76, and so in November '76 I went down to France and saw this little business, which was a tiny little business with it had one little hire boat, which we called self-drive cabin cruises. And it had one, but it also had the agency for, it'd been going 2 years or 3 years. And a French taxi driver called Jacques Amiot had bought it, started the company with his French girlfriend, Marie-Noël Saussure. And the two of them, their whole idea was to do it in 3 years and move it on. People do that. I to this point, had, apart from the job in Greece, which was 7 months, I've never had employment for more than 3 or 4 months. I kept getting fired. I got fired twice at sea, like 100 miles from land. But I was navigator, which I found very amusing. The owner couldn't navigate. And anyway, I realised the last guy was an engineer. He told me that I was unemployable. And I thought, okay, that sort of went on for. But then I went to Greece and I had 7 months employment, so that proved he was wrong. And so anyway, Jacques and Marie-Noël were asking 20,000, the equivalent of 20,000, exactly the sum I had. So I thought, well, I need to negotiate on that. So I offered him 7, which I thought was fair. And it left me some money for working capital. There's cash is king.
Cash and
Working capital. Now, what happened next was, I did not anticipate, Jack was 42, and he died, probably of a heart attack, which I've always felt a bit guilty about.
He saw the 7.
And then Marie-Noël, a short story shorter, she said to me, well look, I'll take the 7,000, because Jack and I had an agreement, a partnership agreement, I guess we call it, and if one died, the other would get the other shares. So she said, we'd always thought we'd take about a 30% drop. So originally she would have got 10,000. So she was anticipating 7, which is what I'd offered. So she got £7,000 of profit, or the equivalent. And there's 50 years to go through. I haven't even bought the business yet. So what happened?
We'll take another break there.
So anyway, the fact that Marie-Noël said to me, look, Derek, I was 22 or 3. She said, look, you can buy the business. Nobody else was there to buy it anyway. But you can buy the business. But I'm going to stay for 6 months. And I didn't negotiate it. She said, I'm going to stay for 6 months because this has been my passion for the last 3 years. And if you have it, if you buy it, you're going to destroy it. And I don't want that to happen. I mean, in Jack's memory, she never blamed me, in Jack's memory, I'd like to keep the business going. And your French is so appalling that it'll fail. And I'm sure she's 100% right. Although I didn't believe it, I believed that I could make it work. And I'd seen this opportunity. It wasn't just seeing the little ad. 2 years before, I'd been to a dinner party with friends, yachty friends, and we'd all said, you know, where's the next place it's all going to happen? And you know, people said, the Caribbean, the Pacific, we're going to get, you know, and I thought, gosh, you know, that's probably right, but that's difficult to go over there. And then this money arrived from my father, and I thought, well, I could do something sensible with it. I put it in the bank and looked around different things. And this business in France came along, which was in its total infancy. They had had 4 or 5 boats, but they'd sold them. There was 1 boat left, and a loft house, which was rented from the French government for about £40 a year. And so I then thought, well, I I can do this, but I need someone apart from Marion Well who knew all about business, and she was brilliant with business. She knew that companies like the BNP and the Crédit Agricole all had clubs that were called Comité d'Entreprise. Because they were big companies, they had holiday clubs, and they were desperate for ideas to put people on boats and send them off to hotels and different things. So she was teaching me business, and then this friend of mine called Charles, he was French, from Belgium, and I'd been to school with him, and he, like me, failed at his O-levels and got off and done an engineering apprenticeship and was bored stiff, making rivets somewhere. And I said, Charles, why don't you come to France with me and we'll do this thing together, and you'll work, and I'll pay you £30 a month, I think I paid him, which is like, no. And he said, well, that sounds great. And off we went down to France. We had a Ford Cortina and a trailer behind, full of English food, because we were pretty sure in France you couldn't eat the food. That's how naive I was about the whole French food and all of that. So anyway, we arrived down there in this lock house, which was freezing cold, and with Marion Noel, who came and went from Valence down the Rhone Alpes, and she came and went, and she taught me French. Charles spoke French, and he was a mechanic, so we bought a few boats, and then we decided to not just, we knew that the whole, there were 3 companies in France at the time renting little boats out on the canals, on the French canals. All of these lines are canals or rivers. And so there we were here, right in the middle of the Canal de Nivenais in Burgundy. And, but I thought, I'm sure this is going to happen. We're right place, right time. It seems to be right. But I'm never going to make a big business out of this. So what I can do, though, is I can advertise to other people who want to do like I do. They can buy the boats from me, and I can give them a business plan right, of how to set a boat yard up, which I vaguely knew about, and what they needed to do, where they needed to advertise. Go to the Comité d'Entreprise. There are hundreds of companies in France with brochures with blank pages in them that they could put these little boats in. So that bit of good advice paid dividends, and we brought over from England behind the Land Rover 300 boats in 10 years, and set up 25 companies. Nothing to do with me. I didn't make any money out of it apart from selling the people the boats, which was good money. And then the exchange rates all went crazy because of the pound and the French franc and all that stuff. And the boat business that was separate to us, building the boats, went out of business. Fortunately, this is now probably about 1987 or 8. Fortunately, around 1982, well, actually, the first week I was in France in 77, a big barge had come through, not a self-drive boat, and we were on the little tiny boats then. Big barge had come through, big Dutch boat. Lovely Dutch guy, still a friend, and my eyes just went, wow, look at this boat, it's filling the whole lot, and he's got 14 people on it, and he's giving them food and all this. They had one loo and a shower down the end of the corridor, which I thought was a bit basic, but apart from that, it looked like a great holiday. So that stuck in my mind, and then in 1982, I decided to go with him up to Holland and try and find a boat, a barge, and so we went all around the scrap yards and the sidings, and we spent 3 months of weekends and long trips and stuff going up there and going around, and bought a boat in the end called Anjodi, which is Anna, Joanna and Diana, who are 3 girls, and that's another story, and it's a Dutch story, not mine, and nothing to do with the Anna over there. And anyway, so that took us up to about 82. And do you want to click a switch? And then you can see this is more or less in the last 5 years where European waterways is sort of going, and what we do now, just to give you a bit more of an idea, we did a transition from little boats onto big boats in 1982.
Well, it's sort of like a dream world, I suppose.
Just think the whole trip was luxurious. Very, very special.
Very peaceful and relaxing.
It's the best way of seeing France.
Well, when we first stepped on board, I thought it was a beautiful barge, spacious, tasteful, and very inviting.
From the word go, the welcome we receive, and everything on board is perfect.
It was really amazing meeting the captain. They felt like an old friend from the very beginning.
All of the facilities are immaculate.
Just in awe. How gorgeous the dining room is, the living area. It's just absolutely beautiful.
There's an opportunity to follow the barge along by bicycle or walking, and in the afternoon will be a shore excursion to a local vineyard or place of interest.
The excursions that have been planned for us are so well thought out and things that really interest us.
Yeah, you don't just sit around. You have planned events, and it just keeps you entertained the entire time. Well, the tunnels were pretty amazing. And then when you come up and you see the reflection on the water, it was just absolutely amazing.
One of the beauties of travelling on the barge is you get to some beautiful isolated villages and just really enjoy the local sights.
You're really experiencing France. You're in France and you want to see what each area has to offer. Food is the main reason we're in France. And then of course the food is always exquisite.
The presentation of all the food is absolutely incredible. Obviously, they are real artists. You felt like you were really in an expensive restaurant. And that's something you don't get on a cruise someplace else. This is really original.
And the chef is amazing. The wonderful wines.
Oh, wines.
But one thing I can say is that on these trips, that your wine glass never goes dry.
I think the people we meet on board are just always very interesting people that travel a lot, and it's just fun spending time with them.
We just met them yesterday and already they're all friends.
This is a treasure that most people don't know about.
Here, you're part of it. You're immersed in it. And that makes it really special because you don't get that in other cruises. Instead of 250 people on board, we have 8.
8 very pampered people.
Very luxurious. Something, once you've done it, you really realize that it doesn't exist anyplace else.
Everyone should do this at least once in their life.
This is the place to be. Unforgettable.
We've got a couple more quick videos, but I'll just infill a bit more about what European Waterways is today. So in 82 we have one boat. It takes about 4 man-years to take an old commercial barge and convert it into a hotel boat. If you've got all the skill sets to do it, the welders, the carpenters, the plumbers, the electricians, the mechanics. And it needs to be project managed. The first boat I bought for £6,000, and I spent about £60,000 on it, doing it up. And that was finished, the first people came on board in 1984. That boat is still going strong, it's had a lot of fun. That 1 or 2 English people might know, there's a TV series done by the BBC 20 years ago by a chef called Rick Stein. Rick Stein came with us, BBC paid for it, they paid top rate, 6 weeks on board and 15 weeks in the area filming. They did a 20 series programme. That was our recession beta. We've had ups and downs in tourism. This was one of our ups. In 2004 they came along. I'd never heard of Rick Stein, and he has written books about the trip, and so that really helped us at the time. So between 84, the first boat, and the other boats coming in, we now have got 18 boats in the group. We own 11 of them, and we work in 9 countries. France is the main, wherever the wine is in France, you've got a hotel barge, and it might well be ours. There's probably in the whole industry, there are 50 or 60 across the 9 countries, there are 50 or 60 boats doing what we do. There are the big river boats with the gentleman there said 8 people on board, so we'd give 6 crew for 8 people. There are big river boats that take 100 people or 200 people. There are the self-drive boats, the little ones, there are a couple on the cliffs there. And then you've got the cruise industry with their 5,000 people on a boat and stuff. But our level allows us to give a very high level of service, very good quality of food, all of the stuff that you're talking about, recruitment and hospitality, and every single line there went, oops. I can see that. I wish somebody had told me all that at the beginning. I just have 1 or 2 basic business principles without being involved too much. Try and be honest, try and have integrity, strike deals and stick to them. And I mean, basic business life rules. On the Christian side, I would say I came to Christianity probably only really about 10 years ago. I'm not sure my parents were Christian, really, but they brought me up with the right set of rules, as far as I'm concerned. They got them from somewhere. So, anyway, for a small business, it's complex because we work in so many countries. We represent some of the boats, 11 we own, and the countries where we, if you like, do our tax returns and stuff are the UK, France and Holland. The other countries, Belgium, Italy, Germany, Ireland, etc. We don't do Portugal. Luxembourg, I think we throw in because we go in there for lunch. That's not really a country. Not from a cruising point of view. It's on the map, I think. And it's complex from a marketing point of view, apart from it's a product. Our competition is, well, we've got a guy called Arno who owns a company called LVMH, who's fairly wealthy. He is our biggest competitor. He's the richest man in the world, or the 3rd, depending on the week. He owns an awful lot of companies, and for some reason he bought a barging company about 25 years ago, and a company called Afloat in France then. And he has a hotel chain called Belmont, and that's part of the Belmont group, which is part of this LVMH, Louis Vuitton, Moët Hennessy, massive company. So we rub shoulders with their boats all the time. They sell, because of the name of LVMH, they sell at 25% more expensive than us. We're expensive. We go out at about 10,000 euros per person per week, all inclusive. But that's expensive. You've got to have the money to do that. But the market is there. It's one of the restricting factors for the growth of the industry is that the people we're aiming at are the real top draw financial stuff. But it does work as a business. It's survived 2 expensive divorces and 5 children. Lots of school fees, which are finishing in June, which is amazing. Yeah.
But the children are not lining up to take over the business either, are they there?
No, the 3 most involved ones, I've got a doctor, a musician, and a philosopher.
That's what you need.
They all like that. Right, we're going to do another clip.
Yeah, we've got 5 minutes to go there. You very cunningly avoided the hot seat completely by talking and playing videos.
We're in Scotland now.
Oh, the sound is off, I think.
That's right. That's not We had a hell of a job getting the boat to Scotland. We had to go across the North Sea for 5 days.
What percentage of your guests are American?
80%. Plus.
I would imagine.
Yeah, so when COVID happened, the year before, 2019, we carried 2,650 people. 2020, following year, we carried 53. So we had a brick wall. Following year we had 500, and now we're back up around 3,000. So but American, it's mainly English-speaking clientele. The Brits.
How do people find you, Derek? We heard about probably Google from Gary. What was your main source?
So now, well, we're fortunate, as opposed to a dating company, we do get repeat business, word of mouth. It is a bucket list type experience as well, so people don't always come back. But because we've got lots of boats and the service level is all pretty much the same everywhere, people will do one cruise and then another like that. We've got some people who've done 20 cruises. So we only get about 30% repeat business. Social media wise, Facebook's strong. People Google, they hear about the canals, all of those. You can go from here to here by boat. That people do it. I mean, we cruise up and down. We'll do 70 kilometres in a week. We're not going great distance. We just cruise for a bit, excursion and food and wine and chill. we don't have to have a third video, it's fine, you've got the drift.
Yeah.
There's 100 on our, we have a YouTube channel called European Voice, and there are about 100 videos on it that all help generate, we're up to X million, whatever, people doing it.
Fantastic. So what's the plan? What next?
What next?
Yeah.
Well, we're launching a new boat in 4 weeks' time, so that's our immediate what's next. Succession planning is topical. It's the best way of leaving that there. I'm 71. I think it's probably time. You know, I won't live another 50 years. The company might. Who knows? But so we'll see.
I'll have a word with Mr. Arnaud. I thought he'd been obvious.
I don't think so.
No.
Who knows? I mean, I'm not actually going to pitch it in his direction. We've discussed him. All of his boats I mean, we are the only people that operate in all those countries. Everybody else operates in France, or England, or Scotland, or Holland. They don't operate in all of the countries. He doesn't. Maybe he'd be attracted by that, but I don't think so. I think the amount of money we'd require, he can get out of his back pocket, I'm sure. But you know, talk to me in 2 or 3 years' time, and maybe I'll tell you who's bought it.
Okay, cool. Any other final questions before we?
What's your involvement at the moment? I mean, are you there a lot, or are you?
I have, fortunate, I've been through 2 divorces, and at each divorce my business partner came in and got another 25%. So bailed me out. So he's very good. He had a big corporate life thing, and he in the last 5 years has really stepped up to the plate and is doing a lot of hands-on stuff. He's also, I'm a boat guy, basically. That's my passion side of it, and that's probably what's kept me going through the 50 years of the ups and downs and all of that. I still deal with everybody in the management level, and anybody who wants to get hold of me can. I go back to, we've got 12 people in the office in England that do sales and marketing, so I'm in contact with them. We do meetings over something called Teams or something. We use like a telex machine over there. And then we've got a management staff in France and an operations staff in France, and mechanics and carpenters and people like that. We've got 100 crew. So there's always stuff going on. But I've got a little office at home, and I can work from there. I don't need to be in every day at all. So my phone, which follows me around. Yeah. So
Brilliant. Thanks very much there.
For those of you who are new, can I just ask you, if you want to go onto the website, algarvebusinessnetwork.com, algarvebusinessnetwork.com, you can fill in a little form there. We can get you onto the WhatsApp group, so then you'll be informed of all our events and all our news. And also, we do want to get profiles of the businesses onto the website. So I've sent my profile up to the developer who's putting it on at the moment. Once that's up and running, I'll show you the link, and we'll just get your details and we'll get your businesses up there as well. And if there are opportunities to do business with each other, if anyone needs a lawyer, we have one in the room. If anyone wants a very nice holiday, we have that available. If anyone wants to buy a dating agency, there's plenty of opportunities here. So do join up so we can keep you informed. We kind of meet roughly once a month. It's not too exact based on travel plans. There'll certainly be another meeting in June before the summer break, I think. So thanks all for coming tonight. Safe journey home, and we'll see you again very soon.